Our topic today is change. Change, I can't to I can. And there is a story behind this, as things are. We know in our teaching, The Science of Mind, that what we believe is what is attracted to us. And today, what we're going to focus on is also the more important interpretation of that, our teaching, which is what we believe is actually what we end up being, that we be what we believe. It becomes us. So I had an experience this week. I had my last Zoom ballet class, and during this whole situation, I have been taking ballet via Zoom 3 times a week because I realized very early on that even though I had these great intentions to run and get in shape and, use all of this isolated time to really take care of myself, I very quickly learned, no, you're just going to sit on the couch. And so you need to sign up and show up. So I've been doing it. And I am very proud of myself in showing up 3 times a week and doing it, as sweaty as it would be. And so the last class, I decided to take a video of myself doing a ballet exercise so that I could see how to do the exercise, maybe practice on it until my next, series of classes started. And so I did that. Well, the world has learned over the past couple of, especially the last decade, the power of seeing something on video. And as I looked at my video, the good news is, I have improved in ballet. I looked like my legs, let me put it this way, my legs looked like they knew what they were doing, and they were doing it pretty well. I was like, wow, that's pretty good. But the video showed much more than just my ballet steps. It showed me. Now we know exercise is not my best look, but yes, I was sweating, but I looked miserable. I looked miserable. I looked in pain. And as I reflected upon it, I realized the word dingy came into my mind. Dingy. So I know that when I'm in-person classes, dance classes with all the mirrors and the other students there, I know I am smiling the entire time. I am just so happy to be there. And when I look at myself in the mirror, I think I look fabulous. And when I'm trying to do a step, I'm looking at all the other students who can do it much better than me. And I guess I'm believing that I look like them. Okay, so who cares? But the thing is, when I'm all alone in this little area that I've cleared away, which is pretty much a hall, in a dark space because I don't have very good lighting, and all alone, not able to really even see the teacher. I certainly can't see the other students, even though they're there. It's just too far away and I'm standing there doing stuff. I mean, whatever. When I'm all alone, a lot was revealed. And so I took a look at myself and I said, what am I believing? Or what is this person who looks like this believing? And I came up with this sound, this word, I can't. So even though I was there showing up for an hour and a half, 3 times a week, absolutely doing as best I could, whatever the teacher told me, the belief was, I can't. And so as I looked back into our book that we have been using, Shortcut to a Miracle, by Elizabeth Rand Arrett and Michael C. Rand, I saw that they had a section on creating miracles in success and in health. And they brought up that this belief in I can is a requirement. So they suggest three things to activate this spiritual truth, which is belief opens the door to allow the power to flow through us. And so the first thing that they say when you realize that you can't, that you can't, and you believe you can't, the first thing that you have to do is place no blame. In other words, if you apply it to me, my unconscious blaming was the world. This crazy thing, pandemic, and all this going on, and the masks, and I have to stay in here, and I can't touch people, and I can't go to my dancing class. And because of all this, I'm miserable. I'm not having the fun that I usually associate with intense sweating. And so I had to do that very special prayer when we realize that we are blaming others or situations or conditions in our world on our troubles. And the special prayer is, Dear God, I have a problem. It's me. Funny, but it's me. So if there's an area in your life where you are not able to do what you desire to do, and you're not doing anything about it, maybe you need to take a look at it and see if you are attaching blame to somewhere else, which means you can't because you are powerless and we're a victim. And that's not spiritual truth. So we have to take a look at that. That look at myself with a video is similar to the experience I have when I go on vacation or when I travel away from my home for a particular period of time in different circumstances. And surrounded by different circumstances, I get used to them. And then when I come home, I take a look at how I've been living with an outsider's view. And I draw some conclusions about, wait a minute, maybe some things need to change. The one thing about our beliefs about what we can is that we do and we live according to what we believe we can. We live according to our inner definitions. And we probably all do have goals and set intentions, like me, to improve in certain areas. And we can measure that and take a look at it, and we're putting our focus on it. But every so often, we might want to step outside of ourselves and take a look and see, what are we missing? Or what else needs to change that we just didn't notice? What has gotten dingy? I know that during this whole experience that we've had the past few months, I've been very proud of my positive habits that I have adopted. I make my beautiful bed every morning, and I shine my sink every day. And I have been doing ballet, and I do my spiritual practices, and I check it all off on my little calendar, and I can see all this great progress. But the question is, what has fallen by the wayside? What have I not noticed that an external eye would notice right away? And we have to be that external eye. So when we are wanting to move forward in success, right, we place no blame and we check our attitude. That video of me, that was very clear. I don't want that attitude, and it's not my attitude when I'm in dance class, but I love to dance. I love to move. I love to see what my body can do. Why isn't it looking that way on my face? And so an attitude adjustment is necessary. They go on to point out, if you hate your job, why are you working in it? And yes, in some way, it's easier to just allow what is established in our lives to just go along with a I'll handle it, I'll take care of it later attitude. But there is no later. And our lives end up just drifting along. And so, where are you drifting? Like dust, right? Just drifts. I rarely use a particular burner on my stove. Well, I rarely use my stove, but I looked at it this morning underneath it and I realized dust had drifted underneath the iron plate there. And so, in a sense, there is an element of neglect going on in those areas where we've just accepted that we can't do what it is that would be different for us. And so we want to take a look at our attitudes and then change them if we don't like what we see. And then the third one is the power of belief. They go on in this book to talk about the physical aspects. And they say, even our bodies respond to our desire to express creatively. And they give a couple of the great sports as the great sports records, world records, right, as examples. And I'm sure you've all remember the running 1 mile record that for centuries people said you cannot run faster than a 4-minute mile. The hypothesis was that if you did run that fast, you would die. And then along came Roger Bannister in 1954, May 6th, in England, and he became the first man in history to break the 4-minute mile when he ran the 1 mile in 3 minutes, 59.4 seconds. And 46 days later, John Landy also broke it, and then others after them. And now the world record is held by Hikam El Garaj, 3 minutes, 43.13 seconds, set in 1999. It's standard now in the races that I have run that the lead runners will run a 4-minute mile. It's standard when it was considered to be impossible just a little bit over 50 years ago. But then my other favorite story is the wrestler. Vasily Alexeyev in 1970 World Weightlifting Championship. No one had ever broken the 500-pound record. And so he called, Vasily, knowing this, along with all the other weightlifters, he called for 499 pounds to be placed on his bars for him to lift up. And they gave him the weights, and he went through his lift successfully. And then what they usually do right after the record is done, after the attempt has been made, is they re-weigh the weights. And they found out that rather than giving him the right measurement, they had given him a 0.5 pound more, so that he actually had lifted 501.5 pounds. He believed he was lifting 499, and he lifted more. And he went on to lift more and more weights, as well as other people. So this power of belief, we've talked about it so much, but that power of belief affects us most directly with that belief, what I can and what I cannot do. And that belief limits what we are able to do, and it even limits our vision of what we can do. And so after having taken my look at my life, I'm like, okay, I have to do something. And on Friday, I was speaking with my prayer partner, and I came up with a spiritual practice to address this. And here's another interesting little story that happened. A few days earlier, someone in my ballet class offered free tomatoes for whoever wanted to drive out to come and get them. And so I'm like, I raised my hand right away. Oh yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there. And I had a delightful ride out to New Hope and thinking about these luscious tomatoes I was going to be eating on the way home. And I was just so excited about it. I thought it's a little early for tomatoes, but who cares? You know, weather's strange, whatever. And when I got there, I discovered he wasn't offering the tomatoes, he was offering tomato plants. And so I said, yeah, sure, whatever. I took three of them, three different kinds that he had raised lovingly and created these seedlings, whatever. And they're all, you know, these little plants right now about this big. And he told me, you know, you plant them and you water them and you do these things about them. And one of them, the first plant's going to be ready in 60 days, and the second plant is going to be ready in 70 days, and the third plant will have tomatoes in 90 days. So I'm like, oh, good, I'll be able to eat them all, whatever. But there's just one little problem with this whole thing, which is I have never been able to successfully grow pretty much anything. Even though I've been making a lot of effort with my houseplants to care for them, they need help. And it shows a belief I can't. I don't have a green thumb. I can't grow things. And so with my prayer partner, I decided, okay, here's our spiritual practice, because he is a gardener and he does have plants. And every morning we're going to go outside and water our plants. And we're going to claim freshness and vitality, new good, and circulate that newness with us. Henry David Thoreau said, what old people say you cannot do, you try and find that you can. Old deeds for old people and new deeds for new. Who's the old person? It's the old you that's saying that you cannot do it. The new deeds are for the new people, vitality, newness, freshness. And so I went right away to Home Depot and I bought the City Gardeners kit, and all in a box with the soil. And I dragged the soil out of Home Depot into my car. I still haven't dragged it out of my car into my backyard, but I set up the little box that is big enough to plant the 3 tomato plants in it. And I went back to Home Depot for more fertilizer and dolomite and all this other sort of stuff. And the Home Depot guy came up to me and said, can I help you? And I'm like, yeah, blah, 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 because I can't. And he said, no, you don't need it. With that soil that you bought, it has it all in it. I'm like, oh, good, thanks, whatever. So I'm all set to plant, do something new. But with the planting, I'm also saying to myself, I am planting a new seed of freshness and vitality. And I am going to look at my entire world and myself with new, happy eyes. I'm going to see myself as fresh and new. I also, while I was in Home Depot, spent probably about 15 minutes in the light bulb aisle looking for the very specific light bulb that would replace some of the light bulbs I have in an overhead lighting fixture that had been out for probably years. I'd like to say a year, but it's probably years, because it's hard to get the right kind and blah, blah, blah. I got all these excuses, but the thing is that let me bring the light in. And so I bought one bulb as a sample. I came home, I tried it out, I put it in there. It worked. I went back the next day, bought a whole bunch more, put them all in this morning. Freshness, newness. And I'm looking at that overhead lighting fixture going, it could use a dusting. It could use some freshness and light. And as I look around my home, I'm looking at things, this broke, this battery died and I replaced batteries and I recharged batteries and I bought more devices to fix other little things. Freshness and newness is calling me and maybe you as we start venturing outside after having been inside our home for so long. We get to take a look at our inside our home from the new eyes of the outside and see what is there. And if we like it, yay. But if there is something that is showing you that you've fallen into a tendency of behavior that is not in keeping with who you want to be, then these measures are needed. And so, what can we do about it? We can do our spiritual practice of affirmation. I love Annie Sullivan, and whenever that movie comes on, I love watching that scene where she played, well, where the actresses played that scene where Annie Sullivan was trying to get through to Helen Keller, and that these spellings are words and that words have meaning. And they have in the Miracle Worker movie of the 50s, it has that one phenomenal scene, which it just seems endless, in the dining room where she is determined to get through to her student, to listen to her, even just in polite manners, but it's to listen to her, to become acceptive and in a open, listening, receptive mind, which Helen Keller at the beginning wasn't. She was pretty much running the house and doing whatever she wanted. And Annie Sullivan needed to get through to her. And that grueling scene, I read a write-up about it where, in it, once they got going, they let it run the entire time, one take. And one or the other of the actresses, I mean, they both had bruises all over themselves, but one of them had cracked their ribs and everything else. It's a good scene. Well, and pretty true, because Annie Sullivan tells us this, not the actress, right? The real teacher. Keep on beginning and failing. Each time you fail, start all over again, and you will grow stronger until you have accomplished a purpose. Not the one you began with, perhaps, but one you'll be glad to remember. And so this week, I invite you, like me, to take a good look at what you didn't notice as you open your doors and your windows and you get outside and you come back into your world. What is it that you stopped noticing? And what is it that you need to address? And then, like me, engage in a spiritual practice of newness. For me, I am going to grow tomato plants. And every day I'm going to go outside and I'm going to love them and I'm going to be saying, I am fresh, new vitality. I am alive, alert, aware. I am, behold, all things are made new. That spiritual practice of bringing my mind around, as well as some sort of concrete activity of newness in my world, I think is a double duo powerful support mechanism that really will allow me to be happier, right? Because the whole thing was that I saw in that video was I did not look happy, and miserable was the word. And I was all alone. There was no need for it. I have to change. And so again, this activity with the gardening and the spiritual practice, again, I'll be all alone, but fresh new ideas will be invited. So I invite you now to relax. And I'm going to do an affirmative prayer. I call it spiritual mind treatment for any of you who would like to behold, all things are made new, and let go of some old outworn belief, some area where you believe I can't, and you're ready to let it go and see that maybe you can. For sure, if we say and believe I can't and don't change it, we can't. So we're right. So you get to be right. Yay, right? But if you're ready to change, the first thing has to change is that belief. It has to be, I can. And so take a moment right now and think about some area of yourself that you would like to see newness. And so this word is being spoken for each one. That infinite creator has not created the universe and let it go, run to ruin. This infinite creator is creating this universe and everything in it right now. And behold, I am, that I am, makes all things new. That divine creator is always creating freshness, newness. It is the activity of living and expressing that life. Right now, this infinite creator is creating a new baby, a new life, a new puppy, a new plant, a new seedling. Right now, it is creating a new star. It is omnipresent, and everywhere it is creating something new, and it is creating each one here new right now. Any belief that one is an old idea in the mind of God is dissolved and erased and vanished, because the God that is the creator of this universe is not thinking old ideas. That divine creator is as fully new now as it ever has been. At that moment of the great beginning of the universe, its newness and freshness is all of it still here now. All of its attention is on thinking the new into creation. And right where each one is, the infinite creator is thinking newness into creation, in, through, and as each one. And so each one is now open and listening to the new ideas of the divine that it is seeking to create, using each one, through each one, in each one, around each one. This divine is not interested in having everyone be the same. The divine is interested in each one discovering in wonderment and in awe something new and fresh and delightful about life, about themselves, about their world. And it is bringing to each one a new idea of I can, in some area where the whole sum history of each one's life has been on a belief of I cannot. And so the I cannot is erased by the fact, the evidence, the new world record kind of evidence that is proof that I can, because that omnipresent goodness, that loving self, the I am that I am, always can and is doing what it can using each one. And it is now using each one in a fresh, new, and wonderful way. And each one is now open to its inspiration, its empowerment, and its new, wonderful, fascinating ideas about themselves, about their world, and about what is possible for them. Yes, even now. Behold, I make all things new is the truth of each one, firmly planted in consciousness now, and each one accepts it, listens to it, is guided by it, and believes it. And behold, each one is proving it in miraculous and wonderful ways in every area of life. I am grateful that this is the truth. And I now turn this word over to the law, which is omnipotent, and omniscient. It knows how to do it, and it can do it, and so it does do it. And so it is. It is done. So have a new, fresh week, and I will be here virtually next Sunday, and stay tuned. See you later. Bye.